Hello, hello. This is the last thing I'm going to do because it's now 2:04, so I'm late getting to where I'm supposed to be going. I really want to read this. This is my friend JC's book that she's writing about the city of New Orleans, the love affair that she had there. Let's see, where we left off was she was in the car with her two kids and they were traveling from Miami to New Orleans to visit a friend who was dying of cancer. And now she's having these reminiscences. She's getting excited to get back to meet her friend and more than friend, Mr. Montgomery, who was her mentor and larger than life character in her world. So she's having a flashback. That's where I start with paragraph 10. Mr. Montgomery talking to her, saying, "Mrs. Burroughs, I've been the headmaster of Edgeview Prep for 32 years, and I've never been taken to the mat the way you did when we negotiated your salary, for God's sakes. I thought I'd been ambushed by the Viet Cong. I had gotten as far north as Orlando. The sun was up now, warming the car. We had stopped at a McDonald's in Port St. Lucie, and my children were once again asleep, heads drooped over, my daughter in front, my son in the back. My head and my heart were time traveling ahead to visit our New Orleans and back to when we had lived there. Ahead to seeing Mr. Montgomery, back to my years working with him. I remember the day I met Mr. Montgomery at Edgeview Prep as clearly as yesterday. The stars apparently had all been aligned in my favor that day because at 10 in the morning I had called a friend of mine to casually inquire about any possible openings at Edgeview, where she was a guidance counselor. By 10:20, she had arranged for me to have an interview that afternoon. By 11, I had printed out an updated version of my resume, and by 12, I had purchased a new pair of legs. At 2:40, I was sitting in the gravel school parking lot wearing my very tween-looking, very Catholic-looking gray skirt with a white linen short-sleeved blouse. I looked in the side view mirror of my car and weeded out as many silver hairs from the brown as I could, wondering what was the very best time to go in. Either I picked the perfect time exactly or it didn't matter. There's a sentence I can't quite get. I walked out of Edgeview Prep that day glad to be alive. I knew I had connected 100% and knew somehow that I would I would work there. So it's in pencil, sorry. I'm going to start the paragraph again. I walked out of Edgeview Prep that day glad to be alive. I knew I connected 100% and knew somehow that I would work there. I didn't sign a contract until June, but from April 17th till June 9th, I knew I had a place to go. I was safe. He is the only boss I've ever known who called back every time. I left a message, and I left a lot of them, making sure he wouldn't forget me. I guess now that those were unnecessary precautions, but that 504 number for Edgeview Prep will forever be etched in my memory. My first year at Edgeview Prep was an unlikely mishmash of classes. PE, 4th grade math, 5th grade reading, 6th grade math. It was just a ridiculous excuse for a PE coach. I was in shape and everything, but I knew almost nothing about playing basketball, volleyball, or softball, much less teaching how to play the sports. But after going through, this is a sentence I can't get it. I'm just going to move fast because it's written. But after going through the usual several-month routine of reading the school, figuring out which rules were serious and which were more for show, which kids were prickly but genuine, and which were sweet but fake, I settled into a routine at Edgeview that made me feel each morning as if I were driving home. In the early mornings, Mr. Montgomery would be standing in the foyer of the student hall, slapping kids on the shoulders, squeezing hands, standing straight and narrow like the former Marine that he was. I was one of many, yet somehow I felt special. What a gift. And did I say Marine? I hate the whole concept of military. It scares me to think the whole legions of men and women crazily chasing down and killing the enemy or being chased and left for dead themselves. I simply do not get why, in this day and age, we are still blowing each other up, destroying the only things that are important in this world. But Mr. Montgomery was one of the kindest, warmest, non-crazy men I'd ever known. So by Christmas of that first year, the day before we were going on a break, when my husband called to tell me he was going to start looking around for jobs elsewhere and that he could no longer tolerate the headmaster at his hotshot school in uptown New Orleans, I felt my insides collapsing. I sat in the college guidance office at lunch, listening to him speak, accepting the news as I had many times before, as I would many times again. I left the office red-eyed and red-nosed. The tears that spilled out left me red-eyed that noontime. I need to stop there. Not my best reading, but there you have it. We'll start with the next paragraph, paragraph 17. Good day.